Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video here at my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be using the Shooting Star stamp set from Mama Elephant, and I'm going to be creating a card that has sort of been haunting me for weeks and weeks. I have attempted to make this card multiple times and it was not working out, and finally on this attempt I liked how it turned out, so I'm here to show you how I made it. So I'm starting out by stamping the sentiment on some watercolor cardstock. This is watercolor paper from Strathmore, and because the watercolor paper is textured, sometimes it's hard to get a really good impression when you stamp words or images. So in order to alleviate that problem and make sure that if I have to stamp it twice that it's in the same spot, I'm using a MISTI tool. You're going to see me stamp it here once, and I didn't like how it stamped that right side where it says stars. It was just a little bit lighter than the beginning of the phrase. So I inked up that sentiment again and just swing that over, and then it stamps in the exact same spot. The MISTI tool is fantastic for instances like this where you anticipate that there might be a problem getting a good impression. So for the image, I'm going to be doing some no-line watercoloring. So I'm going to use a light blue ink color, and I'm going to stamp it off once and then onto my project. And because I'm going to be masking this, I thought I would go ahead and just stamp directly onto the masking paper for that first stamping off portion so that I don't have to waste any paper. So I'm stamping that on the masking paper and then taking that out and then down onto my project. And this is going to make that final impression a very, very pale blue where you can hardly see it at all. And this is the exact shade of blue that I want. So I took the masking paper and I'm just trimming that out. And Sophie, if you can hear her meowing in the background, is walking in the room. Sort of reminds me of when Manny would interrupt my voiceovers as well. Anyway, so I just put that mask over the girl, and now I'm going to be using the Falling Stars background stamp from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to be embossing this in white embossing powder, and that's going to act as a resist when I paint over the top. So since I'm using this MISTI tool and I'm using a cling stamp, I removed that foam inside so that it can accommodate the foam that's on the stamp set. I prepped the area with my EK Success powder tool and then inked up the stamp with the Versamark ink. And I'll just swing that over and press the stamp down, and I get a perfect impression of all of those stars. So after I stamped the stars, I took that watercolor paper and sprinkled on some Hero Arts white embossing powder. This is a really great white embossing powder. I also ended up using a brush to brush off some excess areas where the powder just stuck to, for whatever reason. There was nothing there, I just didn't want to come off those areas. Used my heat tool to melt the embossing powder. And then after I had all of that embossing powder melted, I needed to do a little bit of masking fluid over the top. I want to preserve the area of this girl, the stamped girl, and also sort of a rounded curved edge shape so that she has something to sit on. So I'm taking some drawing gum or liquid masking fluid, and I'm just painting on the areas where I want it to be masked off. I'm using this particular masking fluid, or a liquid masking fluid, because regular masking paper doesn't hold up to water, and I'm going to be adding quite a bit of watercolor over the top of this, and I want to make sure that that area is safe underneath. So I actually let this dry overnight, and then I came back the next morning and started painting. So I taped down my watercolor piece to a board here, just so that as I add watercolor on top that it's not going to warp the paper too much. I gave a wash of water over that entire sky area, and then I started bringing in some color. I started with a very vibrant purple, and I just took that into that top corner. And I noticed that it really wasn't moving around as much as I'd hoped. So I tipped that board and I just put a stamp pad underneath so that it tilts that board just enough so that it starts to pull the color to the bottom. And this is actually what is recommended when you're doing watercoloring in general. You should have your work surface tipped so that the water moves a little bit and doesn't pool in areas. So I added some vibrant blue over the top, and I'm really trying to get those colors to mix a little bit where they meet. Brought in some additional purple in those other areas to get a little more color variation. I also grabbed my paper towel to sop up some of that dripping color that was threatening to come past that masking fluid area. Brought in some red, or this kind of magenta pink color, because I wanted a little bit of color variation down at the very bottom. I wanted it to look a little bit more like a nighttime sky. And when I think of a nighttime sky that has a red in it, I always think of that sort of rhyming phrase that my mom always said, that it was, let's see, red skies at night, sailor see light. Red skies at morning, sailor take warning. And I've always remembered that, and it's completely true. And I hope, I'm sure some of you have heard that phrase before. Just means that if you see red in the sky at night, that you're going to have good weather all night long, that there's no storm coming your way. But if you have red in the sky in the morning, that means that there's going to be storms throughout the day. And I don't know why that's true, but it's completely true. So I'm just heating my project here with my heat tool to dry everything. Now it's time to pull up that liquid masking fluid. You can do this with your fingertips or an eraser, or I'm using an adhesive eraser, just something to grab that masking fluid. I discovered that because I let this dry overnight and it was a very thin layer of masking fluid, that I kind of did need the help of the eraser. My fingertips weren't enough to pull it off. So I'm going to do some painting here with some Distress ink colors, and I'm going to let some music play in the background and speed it up, and I will catch you guys after all the painting is finished. after all the painting was done, I needed to clean up my palette here. This is actually just some white cardstock that I've run through a laminating machine, so it's a slick surface. And I do this because I want a white surface so that the ink colors show up really well, and I know exactly what color I'm picking up. So just wipe that off to keep it clean. To create my card base here, I've actually cut down the watercolor piece to be 4 by 6, and the final card size will be 5 by 7. So I have 2 pieces of white cardstock here. This is marshmallow cardstock from Basil. One piece is 5 by 7, and the other, this one that I'm scoring here, is 7.5 by 5. So I just scored it at a 1/2 inch right there. And this is going to create that folded over edge so that I can glue these 2 pieces together and have a finished card size of 5 by 7. And I did this because I wanted it to be a top folding card, and you can't really do that without having 14-inch long cardstock. So I had to improvise and create my own card base here. So after the card base was created, I set it aside so that I can do some die cutting. I'm going to be die cutting some stars on to this nighttime sky scene, and the dies I'm using today are from Paper Smooches. This is the stars die set, and I just took 3 of the stars and placed them on that watercolor piece, and then I put the top plate down and ran that through my Sizzix Big Shot machine. And I've been using this magnetic platform for a while, and I really like it. And so if any of you are wondering if that's a good investment, I think it is a great investment for your die cutting. So I'm going to be creating a shaker card today. And I've done a few shaker cards in the past, and each time I do one, I get a little bit better at it, and I kind of come up with more tips and tricks for you guys. So the first thing I'm doing is I took some fun foam and I just glued 2 layers together so that it's thicker than the regular fun foam. And then now I'm going to put some Stick-It adhesive over the top. Stick-It adhesive is a full sheet of adhesive, and it's super thin. It's really easy to work with. So I just trimmed it down to be a closer size to my foam here, which is just slightly smaller than that watercolor piece. So I have adhesive all on one side. Now this adhesive is eventually going to be what sticks the foam to that die cut piece, the die cut watercolor cardstock. So I'm taking that watercolor piece and I'm putting it down onto that foam, and right now you're seeing that Stick-It backing sheet coming through those stars. So I took just a regular pen. It doesn't matter what you use for this. You can use a marker or whatever you want. I'm just drawing in those areas that are going to be, that need to be cut out of the foam. So I'm going to just trace those on. And then I'll lift that off, and I'm going to take my craft knife and just cut around those areas. Now, in hindsight, I think I would have just traced all the way up to the edge of those stars, but I didn't know exactly how I would be cutting this out, so I came away a little bit from the edges. Sophie, what's the problem? Come here, girl. Sorry, that's my cat meowing. So I just cut out those areas. This is going to be the areas where the bits of the shaker card are going to be. So I'm putting adhesive on that watercolor piece, and this is so that I can adhere a transparency or acetate over the top. This is going to create the window portion of the shaker card. So just press that down onto that adhesive. And then I'm going to take the backing sheet off of that Stick-It adhesive that's on the foam, and I'm going to stick that directly down onto the watercolor piece. And I decided to use Stick-It for this because I really wanted all the areas around those cut stars to create a strong seal, because I didn't want any of the glitter or sequins to come out from the shaker areas. And I also did these 3 separate shaker areas so that I could always have shaker bits showing. So I just pressed that down really well, and then I took some small sequins, and some of the sequins are just plain clear, and I also put in some white ones. And then I also used a glitter from Martha Stewart Crafts. It's a little tiny star glitter, and it has an iridescent color to it. So it's going to pick up some of those purples and blues that are on the watercoloring. So I just placed those in there. And I also noticed that I kind of filled up those 2 smaller star areas a little too much. So I did end up taking some of those sequins out before I moved on, but I don't have that on camera. In order to finish off the shaker area, I took some Tombow Mono Multi-Glue and just went around the edges of those stars. And I'm going to use my finger to sort of smush all that glue down so that it goes all the way to the edge of the foam. If I wanted to, I probably could have also put some of that Stick-It adhesive on this side of the foam as well, but I didn't think that far ahead. I think next time I make a shaker card, I might do that. So I took a piece of cardstock that's just big enough to cover those shaker areas and just place that over the top. And then now I have my shaker area completely finished, and I can start adhering it to the card base. So I took some Tombow Extreme adhesive to adhere that to the card, and then I just press that down onto my card base that I already prepared. And that is the card for today. This card took quite a bit of time to make, but I really enjoy how it turned out, especially since it took me quite a few attempts to get it to the point where I liked it. Hope you guys enjoyed today's card. I've included some links to some additional shaker cards at the end of this video, so I hope you'll check those out. And until I see you guys again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Like I mentioned before, here are those shaker cards that you can check out. You can click on any of them on screen, or if you're on a mobile device and unable to click on annotations, please check the video description. I have included links to all 3 videos as well as a link to my blog so that you can see a list of supplies used in today's card. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.